2, 6. Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All good? Okay. All right.
When did I get up there? Sunday. Time for church. I drive all the way past Mark Douglas.
How are you, sir? How are you? How are you? Oh, is he? How's that going? I'm dancing. No, he's not dancing quite yet. How excited is that? Mark Douglas. Mark Douglas. Mark. I know where. Mark is the pastor.
You're not going to take it down. I ain't making it. Y'all can disappear.
I went just for him. As soon as I walked in the church. I'm like, no, right. I have to go Sunday. I'm missing out. And I yeah, I just, but it's a great I've been looking for my
Are you guys all good? Does anybody need a sound check? Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 3. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me so I can stop chatting. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, minor.
You watch the photo.
Oh, yeah. All my neighbors are like, I know, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I see it was a great. We're going to have
I was surprised, but somebody does like me apparently. But this was
Oh yeah, Sean and yeah, that well, Sean and I'll be in Houston.
You already been there, done that.
Well, we can see. All right. Great. Wonderful.
She's been told me I should do it, or she was signing the I think we can affect some change. I know you're a handful, but there's got to be, you're not the only one who's in the problem.
No.
I thought it was someone. Oh, I didn't see that. He's with the government. Because he was
Oh, was he? She doesn't know about that one. It's yeah, so I did. Let's see, I delivered it very nicely.
I saw you for just a second.
I just want to make sure you get some pictures. Or okay. That's not No, that's okay.
She still looks so quick.
I realized I didn't even get a chance to write everybody. Yeah. We're going to get the other one.
Truthfully, he'd rather have our money than see us.
No, I'm walking that likes to have it a little bit.
Two bites of squash and a bite of a now. Whatever it is.
I would have never done it. But I did it out loud to go back, so I just decided to develop
I may or may not have to take Jerry asked me.
I heard that. I heard
We did.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming today.
All right, everybody that I had up here before, if you could come meet me up here, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that's City Beach.
Yeah, our mayor's at
Okay.
We're gonna have the city council probably let you get,
Yeah, if you guys want to just maybe a tiny bit back, because there's a few speakers that'll come, just so they don't have to come from behind you guys. That's perfect. If you guys want to shift up, that would be perfect. Everybody kind of shift up. And then I am going to try to keep a path right here so we can see the lake that's on the page.
30 people in the front row.
I just want to see this.
Yeah.
That's the only.
You're
Yeah, I took this. No, you're good. You two want to come on that side or no?
Listen to you.
I just take my green, you know.
Not you. That way.
This way? Okay.
A little bit more? Perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
All right, perfect, guys. Thank you. You guys can even shift up more into like right behind them if you want to. Just like I said, make sure we keep this clear. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
I bet there's floats in there.
I have all kinds of interesting things in there. I wouldn't get into principal friend. Well, there's the dogs. Yesterday. Well,
No, they got all the notifications.
there goes the check.
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. Oh, hey, that is supposed to be. Oh, well.
Well, good afternoon. Always great to be back in Lake County, and I want to thank the folks that we have with us here today, including Richard Corcoran, Commissioner of Education, Deanna Thomas, Executive Director, Lake Technical College, Philip Fulmer, President of Carroll Fulmer Logistics, Alec Thomas, who's a student at Lake Technical College, Dr. Alex Miller, President and CEO, Florida Trucking Association, Representative Truenow, House of Representatives, and Amanda Bogus, the City of Tavares Mayor. And I know we've got a lot of other folks that are here with us, and we're really excited to have everybody here. As many people know, Florida, we're stepping up as we have a lot of problems throughout the country with things like supply chain. We have made it very clear that our ports are open and have capacity, and you are not going to be stuck for weeks on end off the coast of Florida. Since we made that announcement, had a lot of stuff is stirring. You're going to see a lot of really good things, but it raises the issue of logistics and making sure that as things come in, that they can get to market. Clearly, our country right now is having a lot of problems in that regard. And if you look at how much gas prices are going up, food prices, highest year-over-year increase in 10 years, highest inflation rate since the financial crisis of 2008. As there's need for different types of goods and supplies, if it's sitting on a ship somewhere off the coast, that's not doing the economy very much. But when you have a deficit of a good, you're going to have the price go up even further. And so if we can take some of these ships, reroute them to Florida, which we're in the process of doing, that will end up allowing the shelves to be better stocked, and it will help at least put some downward pressure on a lot of the inflation that we're experiencing, because the inflation hits everybody, and you can end up having a job, you can even earn more money, but if the inflation's outstripping your increase in income, then you're actually losing ground. So we want to step up, and we want to make sure that we're doing things. And if you look, our Jacksonville port, Tampa, South Florida, all these ports, there's a huge amount of buzz and a lot of ability to be able to do more and more. Once the goods come, though, we have the ability to get them out to consumers and to businesses using a variety of ways, including rail, but also with the trucking. And we need to make sure that we have folks that are going to be able to fill those positions. It's really, really important. Some companies offer truck drivers more than $100,000 a year and even do 5-figure bonuses. That's how much this is in demand. And so we want to make sure in Florida that we're providing the type of opportunity so that people understand this is out there and have the skills that they're able to realize it. We also, of course, yesterday announced that we're filing a lawsuit against the Biden administration's edict that is forcing shots on federal contractors. Many people will lose their job on December 8th if this edict is allowed to stand. We already don't have the ability to lose anybody. I mean, to keep all this stuff humming, we need to make sure people are able to work, and people have a right to earn a living here in the state of Florida, and they should be able to make their own decisions about health. So we think that that's in Tampa. We think we're going to be pretty good there, but we have to stand up on that because it's a freedom issue, it's a constitutional issue, it's also just a practical economic issue about how the economy is going to function. And you're already hearing even Biden may push back the edict a little bit because they realize it's going to cause massive, massive disruptions if you're doing that. Of course, I'm putting out today the proclamation on the special session where we're going to protect Floridians, making sure that they have the ability to work and earn a living. Also want to make sure that this is something that is enforced properly. Clarify some other aspects of law with respect. I mean, we're litigating with some of these county governments. They have no right to fire people over this. And so we're going to make that abundantly clear and make sure that we provide what we need to. So we're clicking. We're going to make sure we're working hard. At the same time, you see what we're doing with supply chain. You see what we've been doing on all these other things. That's part of the reason that Florida in September of this year, the U.S. added 194,000 jobs. Florida reported September alone 84,500 jobs. So we're leading and then some. And as you see all these negative headwinds throughout for our nation, we're able to fight through that and still provide a lot of opportunity for people. And I think part of the reason is people know we're a free state. They don't have to worry about getting shut down. They don't have to be worried about arbitrary edicts or restrictions. We use our authority to push back against that and to protect people. So we're going to continue doing that. And part of the reason I think we've been successful is we've really put a focus since I became governor on workforce education to make sure that folks know a 4-year brick and ivy university is not the only way that you can be successful. It's not the best way for very many people. And in fact, a lot of the folks that are getting education in these skilled trades are doing fantastic right away and then have the ability to do much, much better. So since I've been governor, we've increased enrollment in career and technical education by almost 50%. We've added 50 new apprenticeship programs, and last year we ordered 15,000 more industry certifications than we had the year before, and I think 2021 will be even more going forward. So that's what we're here today to continue that momentum. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm pleased out of the governor's job growth grant fund to be able to award $6 million to the city of Tavares to construct a new workforce training and innovation center in partnership with Lake Technical College, as well as a public works complex. This center will house Lake Technical College's transportation training programs, including programs for diesel mechanics, auto mechanics, forklift operators, and auto collision specialists. Those are all very, very high demand right now. And so currently Lake Technical College offers these programs at its main campus in Eustis, where they have more than 90% completion rate and a 90% job placement rate across these fields. However, due to space, the college can only train 16 students per semester, and they can only offer classes during the day. With this new facility, they'll be able to triple the number of students to 48, and they will be able to offer both daytime and nighttime classes. Students will be able to work on vehicles side by side with the city's technicians and will have opportunities to work with companies like Carol Fulmer, allowing for on-the-job training experience. And we know these fields are high demand. The number of diesel service technicians and mechanics is expected to grow by 12% over the next 8 years. And Florida right now is the third highest state for their employment. And I think we probably will end up doing even more. So this is one of the the most affordable ways to get a great education. Lake Technical College graduates pay less than $3 per hour, and most graduate with no student loans. And look, people can do what they want. I mean, it's a free country, but you have some of these students, starting really in my generation on, they'll go tens of thousands of dollars in debt, sometimes over $100,000 in debt. They get a bachelor's of arts in zombie studies. And then what happens? You could have just gone and not even done that. And so I'm proud in Florida, our universities are affordable. We don't let them raise tuition. And so you can go without going into the poorhouse. And we have very high quality. And I think a lot of students do very well. And we're happy with that. And we want to continue that. But this idea that a mythical piece of paper is going to somehow pave the way for all these opportunities, well, it depends. It depends on what you're studying. It depends on what you're doing. And so I think what we're seeing here and what we'll do with this money award is really provide very accessible, very high impact training that will immediately translate into people not just being able to have a job, but being able to have a really, really good job. And I think that that's something that's very, very exciting. And we want Florida to really be leading the nation. And our goal is, of course, by 2030, we want to be #1 in workforce education. And I think we're going to be able to get there if we continue to do. I mentioned our private sector job growth rate was 3 times faster than the nation's in the month of September. We want to continue with that momentum going forward. Got a lot of problems nationally that we're seeing. I mean, I think the gas prices, it's just unbelievable how much they're going up, and I don't see really much relief in sight, but I think that is really pinching a lot of families' budgets. To me, I wouldn't be closing these pipelines. I mean, we should want to be energy independent and not have to beg OPEC to get all this money and then get all this energy. And then, of course, the general inflation trends, they said it was just a blip. It was transitory. Now I think most everyone acknowledges this is real. This is something that is really serious. It's taking a bite out of people's incomes. And if it's not reversed, it's going to end up doing a lot of damage to a lot of families and to our economy. So we want to obviously be a counterweight to that in Florida. If we can help with the shipping, we want to do that. Clearly, the job training, filling some of these high demand positions is something that's very, very important. I mean, this isn't going to be ready overnight. It's going to take time to build. But I can tell you this is a real near-term investment where the demand is going to be very, very strong. Before I turn it over to some of our speakers here today, I'm very, very concerned about reports, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, that the Biden administration is going to pay with tax dollars hundreds of millions of dollars to people who came to our country illegally across the southern border as, quote, damages. I mean, you think about it, Americans are getting more in their gas bills. They're getting more in their grocery bills. You've had all kinds of really bad policies throughout our country that has limited freedom. And you're going to turn around for that, and you're going to do $475,000 for an individual that came illegally to this country. I've seen a lot in my day. I've seen a lot that's happened over the last 9 or 10 months that I didn't think I'd ever see. But this takes the cake. If that is done, that is going to be a slap in the face to every hardworking American who works hard and plays by the rules, and it'll especially be a slap in the face to people that have immigrated legally to this country. That should not be allowed to stand. It's wrong, and whatever we can do in Florida to fight back against it, we will do. All right. All right, so before we hear from our speakers, why don't we make it official, and I'll present the check. So Mayor and anybody else from the city that wants to come, you want to come and sit? You guys want to come over here? Let's see. Yeah, why don't you get over here? Okay. Why don't you get up in the middle? Get up in the front. Thank you. Just then we'll do the photo right there. There you go. Oh, part of it?
You want to block all the zeros.
I know. 6 million smackers, not a bad day at the office. All right. Good deal. All right, you can take that.
Thank you very much.
hold on to that until the money actually arrives, so that's your. Okay, so we're going to hear from a lot of great folks. So first, we'll hear from Deanna Thomas, that'll tell us a little bit more about Lake Technical.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wow, what a surreal moment for Lake County and all of Central Florida. I never imagined when I was a dual-enrolled high school student walking the halls of Lake Technical College almost 30 years ago that I would be standing here today next to our great governor. This City of Tavares and Lake Tech partnership to create a new regional training center and transportation hub is an employer-driven model and one of the most innovative projects combining government and education resources that has ever been created. Florida is open, and today is a win for economic development, talent creation, employee upskilling, local municipal and county emergency vehicle needs, and most importantly, the means to provide substantial lifelong abundance to Floridians, which directly contributes to our governor's goal of being #1 in the nation in workforce development by 2030. I'd like to first thank the City of Tavares for partnering with Lake Tech in propelling us all through innovation. Without your vision to move outside of the silos, maximize our resources, and recognize the skill gaps, we would not be here today. Next, I'd like to thank all of the business and community partners and public officials that have supported and championed this project since day one. Your input, ideas, support, and partnerships have been critical to the implementation and success of this program. To the Lake Tech administration, faculty, and staff, your dedication to this project is nothing short of inspirational. To see you all engage in something significant for students in our community makes me proud to be your leader. And finally, a big thank you to Governor Ron DeSantis for your support of technical colleges and career and technical education. Technical colleges and career centers have been the workforce engine with proven results in the state of Florida for decades. We train high-wage, high-skilled, critical thinkers with a focus on the important soft skills employers demand. And the rapid programs we traditionally offer lead students to a career and employment in a year or less. Governor DeSantis, your laser focus on workforce development and providing a mechanism like job growth grants allow high-performing technical colleges access to funds that are literally life-changing. Without these financial opportunities, we would not have the ability or means to provide this type of program or expansion. So today, we are honored to say to you in person, thank you for your support, dedication, and recognition of the high value of post-secondary credentials in workforce education. I can assure you, sir, Lake County will continue to make you proud as we work together to move the needle closer to #1.
All right, thank you. Okay, Alec Thomas.
Hello. I just want to give a big thank you to Governor DeSantis for supporting Lake Tech. It's an amazing opportunity for us to grow the curriculum, and with the industry ever changing, computers becoming more complicated, and we need to better programs to run these trucks and diagnose them and all that. It's harder for us to do that with the budget that we have. So it really helps out. And I think Lake Tech's a great school to start at any point, really, because I just separated from the Coast Guard, and I think it's a great place to use your GI Bill. It was an interesting transition going from being in the service and out, and having a teacher who's a veteran was a great opportunity to really smooth out that transition. And the fact that I was going to Lake Tech helped me secure a job at Waste Connections, which is a great company, huge company that really gives me a lot of opportunities to progress through the industry. And I'm about to graduate from the second program, and I can already see the growth that I've from just lube tech and just making sure the trucks are all greased and changing the oils to actually diagnosing and going deeper into the guts of the trucks. It's a huge transition. And yeah, I can't thank Mr. Yates enough for everything. And he's a great instructor, and I've just learned so much from the school, and everything that we're going to do with this fund is just, it's going to be amazing, and I can't be more proud of what's going to come from it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, whose Jeep is that? That would be, I mean, my kids would love that. If I brought that home, they'd be so excited. Whose is it?
Mr. Yates.
Oh, okay, yeah, man, that's a nice. All right, we have Philip Fulmer up to deliver remarks.
Good morning. As the governor said, my name is Philip Fulmer. I've been in trucking all my life, so I know nothing but trucking. I've seen a lot of changes, good and bad changes, but what we're going through right now is a huge change in the trucking industry. The shortage of drivers and mechanics. Latest estimates out that we're short over 80,000 drivers and mechanics in the U.S. So we need to train those people. The new generation is coming in. My generation, I call myself the old timers in this, my generation is retiring and they're moving on. So we need the new guys in there, and the governor recognizes that. The governor has invested in this opportunity here in Lake County to train these guys and get them out into the highly skilled, highly paid, as he mentioned. These guys can make some good money. So we're excited about this, and we thank the governor for his support, and wanted to say that Governor, Florida Trucking Association supports you 100%.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Richard Corcoran.
Thank you. I just want to say that this is a perfect example. The Job Growth Grant Fund was started to give the governor the opportunity to be nimble and go out there, have people compete for these grants, sell why it's an important thing for that community, and then he has the ability to immediately go out there and impact a community with $6 million. And this is a perfect example. When you have Lake Technical College and the city of Tavares, who are immediately now going to be able to triple their capacity to get these people great workforce education. And the governor, when he first came in, he signed one of his first executive orders was to expand workforce education and be #1 in 2030. And really what it goes to, and he's talked a lot about it, and so did Lake Technical College, is it goes to the dignity of man. When you give somebody that certification, it transforms their life. Suddenly they have a real career, they're making real money, and they have a real trajectory. And Alika is a perfect example. What we know is when they get that first certification, they don't stop. They get the second and the third, and they climb that ladder of success and have a wonderful life that comes around that great career that they've just established. The governor also started rapid credentialing. When COVID hit and we had all these crises, he said, hey, find a way where we can do rapid credentials. From that, we've got 17,000 credentials just in the last year alone because of these rapid credentials, and they're stackable, so everyone can build upon those certifications, and that's a powerful thing. It changes a society when you have people's lives change one by one by one by one. And so I just want to say, obviously, the governor mentioned it in executive order. He says we're going to be #1 in 2030. We were at another event releasing a workforce grant, and the president of the college there said wisely that our goal was 2030. I think at the current pace, when you're looking at 50 new apprenticeship programs, 17,000 certifications, a 50% increase in certification enrollment. When you look at those numbers, I think pretty clear, Governor, we're probably getting closer to 2025 to be #1 in the country, and that's a beautiful thing. But so congratulations to Lake Technical College, City of Tavares, and thank you so much, Governor, for this.
All right. Hopefully we do get there sooner, but I can tell you we are moving forward across a whole range of issues. I mentioned the job creation compared to the nation as a whole. If you look, Florida has the lowest per capita tax burden in the United States. People look at all the stuff we're doing with job training, look at our roads and infrastructure compared to some of these other areas, and yet we have much lower taxes and we have a much leaner budget. And New York has 3 million fewer people than us, and their budget's over twice the size of the state of Florida's budget. And so we're really leading in key investments, but doing it in a way that's very fiscally responsible. We want to get to #1 in workforce education, but I think it's also important to point out with K through 12 achievement rankings for Education Week, Florida's #3 in the country. And I can tell you, I grew up in Florida. We were not #3 when I was growing up. And so that's something that's very, very exciting. Our state university system is ranked #1 in the nation for 5 years in a row by U.S. News and World Report, and the University of Florida is now ranked the 5th top public university in the United States. And again, just 10 years ago, they were barely in the top 20. So we appreciate this is workforce important. obviously traditional K-12, and then having a higher education. So we're working across the board to provide opportunities for folks, and I think that this is something that is going to benefit this state for years and years to come. So congratulations to Lake County, and we look forward to getting this project done. We're also right now going through the budget for next year for the governor's budget recommendations. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities to continue our momentum on workforce education. We want to continue our momentum on the teacher pay. When I remember my initiative 2 years ago kind of got lost in the COVID, but we increased the average minimum salary for teachers in Florida we were in the bottom half, and we got into the top almost 5 or 10, and because it's always changing. And then we added more last year. We'll do that again. So we've got a lot of great infrastructure projects that we're going to be able to do. So we're working through that, but I think we're in a situation where we have a lot of money in reserve, which is good because you never know what's going to happen, especially with the inflation. The inflation kills us, too, at the state government, because we have projects that we did and thought were signed, sealed, and delivered, and now they've gone up 40% in terms of the cost. So then I got to go back in the kitty and make sure that we're able to finish them. And so it's a good thing that we're in good fiscal shape to be able to handle some of the things that may come down the pike. So we look forward to being able to roll out a lot of great initiatives over the next few weeks when it comes to the governor's budget recommendations. And with that, yes, ma'am.
Governor, is there a set date for the special session, and has the call gone out mailing the focus of the bill?
Yes, so I signed it this morning, so you should get that in your inbox very shortly. You'll get that today.
Governor, Orange County School, they changed the mandate on the schools. How soon they're going to be up with sanctions because they were not.
I have to see. That'd be a question for Richard Corcoran, but I think it is important to just point out that we've seen a massive decline in COVID in every county school system of the county school education. First of all, when they say these infections, a lot of them are not actually occurring in school. A lot of them occur in the home or in the community. So I never bought into the idea that the schools were a problem here. But nevertheless, we did that. And that happened across the board, regardless of mitigation. And I think it's also important to point out, we had in September, I think it was September 21st, the Surgeon General issued a very timely revised quarantine rule. What some school districts were doing, they were quarantining healthy kids. So if your kid happened to be in the hallway and somebody tested positive, you'd get a call as a parent 6 o'clock the day before school saying, oh, by the way, Johnny can't come in. He's got to stay home for 2 weeks. And then the parents are like, well, he's healthy. What are you talking about? So it was a healthy quarantine. And I think the policy change was, no. You don't send healthy kids home. You screen for symptoms, and symptomatic kids stay home. If someone may have been exposed, you monitor them 100%. But the parent has a right to have a healthy kid in school. So that was instituted. That was about a month, 5 weeks ago. And the cases are down like 70% just since we did that, because 98% of the kids that were being quarantined weren't actually sick. So sometimes it's like you got to look at the data and you got to be able to do. So that was really, really good. So I think that we're happy to see that the schools have done well, regardless of those policies. But we do need to get to the point, and we will with this special session, we'll address any of this recalcitrance that will be addressed. When they did the Parents' Bill of Rights, it was a good piece of legislation, but they didn't write it contemplating that you'd have some of these local politicians just thumb their nose at the law. So some of the sanctions with taking their salary that the Department of Education did, I mean, that's good, but that is not ultimately, I think, swift enough. And so now it's going to be very clear, here are the parents' prerogatives, and I think that'll make everything a lot better.
Governor, will you be tackling the schools in the special session? Will you be looking at including that or adjusting?
The call includes fortifying the Parents' Bill of Rights, and so that will address making sure parents have the right with respect to any type of medical decisions, including wearing a mask, but then also making sure that parents have a right to not have their healthy child quarantined in accordance with the Florida DOH rule. I don't know that there are very many districts who are not following that. It's interesting, anytime we roll something out, you get the typical people in the cheap seats are going to obviously just say the opposite. But even in districts which, have been very, very stringent on some of even they acknowledge, because the parents, this was just, it needed to change. And I think the parents were very relieved. And I've talked to some of the state legislators who said that that was the number one issue that they were fielding calls on when parents would have a healthy kid quarantined, even though they weren't actually infected. And so there was, some people say, well, just make them pass a test to stay. No, they have a right as a healthy kid to be in and look at the symptoms and then do from there. So that was a really good thing. We just want to make sure that every parent has that honored, and you don't have one or two districts that decide, that they want to do some mass quarantine. I can tell you this. If you look at the performance from the schools for 2020, 2021, difficult school year for sure. There was a lot of uncertainty, and I think the principals and teachers and administrators did a really good job overall throughout the state of Florida. But I do think some of the areas that did really draconian mitigation policies saw enrollment decline and saw performance decline more than anyone. Richard, you would agree with that, right? And so it's really important that our kids have a normal experience, because the learning loss, if you're not in school, learning loss for sure. If you're in school but you can't learn because of all these rules, you're going to have problems there as well. And so the places that did it, I think the most rationally, they had the best performances, and some, had really steep declines. And you could tell because they were almost always the districts that had the fewest kids even in person at all. And that made a huge difference.
You said we're coming to the Florida ports. Where are they coming from? Two logistic companies said they're not sending any additional ones from the West Coast.
So, what I would say on the West Coast is there's in talks about that right now with the ports, and so stay tuned on that. And I think you'll see we had one come in last weekend from India. There have been others that have been routed from the East Coast, and I think you're going to see more on the way. But what happens is, since we did that, we let everybody know, hey, Florida could be a solution here. We have capacity, we have incentives. Then what the companies do is that they talk to the ports, they inquire, and then you try to work out an arrangement. It's a basic calculation. If you're stuck somewhere, what's the cost of coming to Florida? And does that end up making it better than just sitting there? And for some, it does. For some, it may not, just depending on their circumstances. But I think everyone now knows that Florida is part of the solution here. We want to make sure the goods are coming. We want to make sure we help check some of the inflation. And we want to make sure that we're able to go and get things for the holidays, for Christmas and for Thanksgiving. You're thinking about how expensive is Thanksgiving dinner going to be for all these families this year compared to previous years. I think it's going to be a huge increase, and if some of these supply issues don't get worked out, that certainly isn't going to help things. So we want to be a part of the solution on all this. So I think it takes time to have some of these things negotiated, but I know that once we did that event and once the ports let it be known they wanted to provide incentives, there's been a lot of interest from a lot of different companies.
This is a question for you, Commissioner. Do you have a specific response to the Biden administration about the file for cease and desist about withholding compliance for you and the Commission?
So here's the thing. We have state law, and they're not following it, and so the school board members are having their salaries taken. These are politicians. These are not people that are in the classroom. These are elected politicians. A lot of times they'll get elected supported by special interests in terms of how they get in there, and they're not a law unto themselves. And so, but that's really an issue for the state to work out. If you don't want parents, and this is a live debate in our country. You're seeing it in Virginia, and I'm surprised that it has gotten to this point. There are people like me who believe that the health, education, and well-being of our children are primarily the responsibility of parents, and that parents, have a strong role in how what their kids are learning and how they're treated in school and all that. That's the purpose of these schools. There's others that think it's really just the government should do what it wants. You have some of these politicians that should be able to dictate, and that basically the parents should be locked out or should have no real voice. I think it's dividing along those lines. Now, the majority of people believe that the parents really need to be involved. But if you believe the opposite and you don't like the Parents' Bill of Rights, then the way to do it is to try to change it. I don't think you get anywhere in the legislature. You certainly wouldn't get it past me. But that's what is not appropriate is to have the federal government come in blundering into state and local matters and acting like they have a right to facilitate a local district breaking state law. I mean, just think of where that would lead to, and just think if the shoe's on the other foot, how they would feel if there were certain things that were not being done. So what I would tell the Biden administration is lower gas prices, check inflation, stop the madness at the southern border, bring all the Americans home who are still stranded in Afghanistan. Make sure the country creates more than just 105,000 jobs if you take out Florida. Stop coercing people with your mandates that are going to cause a lot of problems in the economy and are going to violate the Constitution and people's individual rights to make decisions for themselves. So focus on that instead of always coming and trying to blunder about business that doesn't concern you. Okay, well, we'll look forward to the groundbreaking over in Tavares when that happens, which hopefully will happen, is right on schedule. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, he talked about subjects in this press conference that many people wouldn't see as connected, but they are absolutely connected. There are a lot of people, based on what I'm seeing in chat, that are still distracted, that still aren't seeing what the real issue is. Governor DeSantis was talking about creating jobs and training that completely goes around the 4-year college degree institution matrix created by the left, and puts those people in high-paying jobs that allows a man to go work, have a wife, and raise kids. She can stay home with the kids and be a part of their life and be involved in their education. And they can exist with one income. Now, that's a big deal to the left. They hate this. They absolutely hate this idea because that's the nuclear family that made this country great. These jobs are directly related to this issue with the schools. Directly related to it. Now, on another note, anybody mentioning forensic audits or bullshit about Trump, okay, you're done. If you're still that distracted a year later, I'm going to say it again, and I've said it 1,000 times. If they had some magical make-believe Dominion machine that they could just flip the votes, please explain Florida and Ohio. Please explain Florida and Ohio. Why did he win in a landslide here? Why did he win in a landslide in Ohio? If they were going to cheat, all they would have done, if they had that technology, which doesn't exist, would just flip Florida and Ohio. That's all it would have taken. Everybody could have gone to bed at 9 o'clock on election night, and it would have been over. Biden would have won. There would have been no need for Georgia, no need for Michigan, no need for Pennsylvania, no need for any of that. You see, this is the example. These press conferences, Trump hates these worse than the left does. Because they knew they couldn't mess with Florida. It would have been too obvious. Baloney, Taylor. Florida is a swing state. Florida is a classic swing state. Georgia's not. Georgia's never been a swing state. They didn't flip 1 million votes in Florida. So, you see, this is what I don't get about people, and this is what really makes me want to throw up. They didn't flip 1 million votes in Florida. He won, President Trump won, by 400,000 votes. And like I said, how could they, if they had the magical make-believe ability to control how many votes came out, why wouldn't they just control both totals? Not just one side. So if you believe this still, you're an idiot. If you believe this crap about Trump, you're an idiot. And you won't get why Florida is going to go its own way. What happened in Pennsylvania, what happened in Michigan, what happened in Nevada, what happened in Georgia was people people on the ground fudging. It wasn't magical Dominion machines. It was people. We have the right people in the right places in Florida so that cheating doesn't occur. You see, Pennsylvania got away with what Pennsylvania got away with because they had the people to cheat. So did Michigan. So did Detroit. So did Arizona. And you see, that would cause, and here's why this is really the big deal. This is what you need to focus on. If those who support Trump would accept this truth, it would mean they would have to take personal responsibility for what happened in their states, and they don't want to do it. They don't want to say, you know what? We didn't bother worrying about who our sheriff was. We didn't bother worrying about who was on our school boards. We didn't bother worrying about who was in control of our elections. All we wanted to do was put Trump in power in D.C. and then go home and drink beer because we want to be led like sheep from D.C. and we just want to have tyranny, just tyranny of our own choice. Just tyranny of our own choice. Once again, awakened and aware, this is personal responsibility. If you don't believe this, then you're literally contradicting what Trump did for 4 years. Awakened and aware. You need to change your name because you're deceived and asleep. That would be a better name for your profile. Donald Trump spent 4 years pissing people off on purpose, galvanizing the left, making them angry, literally every day giving them a reason to get up and vote against him. Giving them a reason to get up and vote against him. It wouldn't have mattered whether it was Biden. It wouldn't have mattered whether it was Hillary Clinton. It wouldn't have mattered whether it was Nancy Pelosi. They were going to vote against whoever was against him. They were going to vote for whoever was running for him. He did this. He did this to himself. And please, if you agree with Governor DeSantis, if you agree with Tom Cotton, how can you possibly agree with Trump? Has Trump said one nice word in the last year about Governor DeSantis? Not one. Have you ever seen him say a thing about it? All he continues to do is whine about, we so treated so unfair. Bullshit. If you don't like truth on this channel, go someplace else. Tom Cotton's a good man. Tom Cotton is a good man, and he was right. Just like Rubio was right. Just like DeSantis was right. This is about the governors. This is about the governors. Our country has always been about the governors. This is going to be a perfect example. You see, ask yourself a question. Why didn't Trump ever in his entire history run for governor of a state? Because he wanted to be the big tyrant, big cheese in charge in D.C., and he wanted to be in charge of everybody. You see, that's the point. He doesn't see DeSantis as he sees DeSantis as a threat to his belief system, his liberal progressive belief system that he has ingrained in him. Trump is a liberal progressive posing as a Republican because Trump believes all answers come from D.C. Why do we say this? Because Donald Trump thinks that if he was still president, all the problems would be fixed. You see, that's the thing. Donald Trump believes the answer is in Washington, D.C. Yeah, okay, you know what? Make whatever allegation you want, Mr. Emp Kinnon. If they had the ability to steal Florida, they would have stolen Florida. If it's some magical thing where they can just go in and put a little thumb drive in a machine and it'll flip all the votes, it wouldn't matter if it was dead people or alive people or anything else. Yeah, Terry McAuliffe has been a creep for a long time. But this is the bigger story. The bigger story isn't about Glenn Youngkin. The bigger story is about the American people realizing, hey, if we want to fix our lives, the answer lies in our governor's house. It doesn't, lie in Washington, D.C. You see, and that's where Trump is on the side of the Democrats this way. Trump hates this idea. Trump hates this idea of states going their own way, doing their own thing. Because explain Florida. Life is wonderful in the state of Florida right now without Trump as a president. He lives in New Jersey. He lives in Bedminster, New Jersey, at his golf club with all of his blue blood liberals friends. Real answers happen in your school board meetings. Real answers happen at your sheriff's office. Real answers happen in your governor's offices. They don't happen in Washington, D.C. I wish somebody would confront Trump on this. That's where the answers are, not here. Not here. Now, to put the nail in this coffin, Florida mom says she was banned as school volunteer over her participation on adult website. Victoria Treese, 30, threatens $1 million lawsuit against Orange County School Board. Now, this is Orlando. Okay? Orlando. Why was this 30-year-old mom having to employ herself on OnlyFans? Why? Because she needed the money to raise her kids. Why did she need the money to raise her kids? Because in liberal land, they destroy the idea of the nuclear family. And by the way, before I forget, Sarada, the Copper Lioness, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, now, this is exactly what the governor was talking about. We're going to bring jobs to Florida that we can recreate the nuclear family, where you don't have to have two people working to afford a house. Mechanics, all sorts of welders, truck drivers, all sorts of people. Why? Because we are driving the engine, so to speak, of the economy. The rest of the states are months and months, maybe over a year behind us on this. You see, here we go, mister. Why? Why do we need an audit of our free and fair elections? You see, you keep this crap up, Mr. Amp Kinnan, you're not going to like my channel. I guarantee you're going to hate it. Because Trump won by literally almost the exact same percentage the polls said he was going to win by. There were exit polls, and they showed Trump winning. And when we got done counting the votes, guess what? He won by that amount. Our elections were free and fair and honest, and we have Dominion machines. Why? We have good people running the Dominion machines. What does that mean? That what happened in Georgia and what happened in Pennsylvania wasn't about the machines, it was about the people. It's about the people, but Trump supporters don't want to accept this because they would have to realize, oh God, it was us that fucked up. We fucked up. We didn't realize. Well, you see, it wasn't that there weren't dead people on the rolls. We just didn't count those votes, Flowers. We didn't count those votes. We had drop boxes. You're talking about the last governor's race? The one where DeSantis won? It was a close race, and I even called it being a close race. People thought I was trying to support Gillum with what I was saying. At that time, nobody really knew DeSantis. Nobody really knew much about him. And Gillum was an Obama clone. And he came in and he was young, and he actually won that he wasn't even supposed to win the Democrat primary. Gillum wasn't even supposed to be the guy running against DeSantis. And he came out of nowhere. And I covered this in 2 different videos. He came out of nowhere with this huge surge of support. And the only thing that stopped Gillum from winning was his little problem with the tickets to the play and the fraud. And then it was after he lost that he got caught in the hotel room with the needles and all that. But anyway, I don't mean to get too animated about this, but this is a big deal. If people don't drop this bullshit about Trump, it's gonna sink the ship. People need to drop the bullshit about the fake, lying fraud Trump. He was a fraud. He was a fake. Anybody who tells you the answer is in D.C., anybody who tells you the answer is in D.C. is deceiving you. The reason California is shit is because of Governor Newsom. The reason Michigan is shit is because of Governor Whitmer. The reason Florida is a paradise right now with plenty of jobs and high wages. You know, when you're making $100,000 a year as a truck driver, I'm not saying that you don't have financial issues, but you're not worried about paying for Thanksgiving dinner. You're not worried about paying for Thanksgiving dinner if you're making $100,000 a year on one income. It's not a problem. Yeah, things get more expensive and you don't wish they were so expensive, but you can still get it done. And we have 3 major ports, actually 4 technically. The closest port in the continental United States to the Panama Canal is right here. Right in South Tampa. Oh, and that too. We also have all sorts of our own agriculture and cattle and all that type of thing. We have a port here. There's another port, I believe, up here. And then, of course, Jacksonville. And then, I mean, we have major ports, meaning there's a lot of stuff going to come into Florida. And the first stop on their way, I mean, all of our stores are going to get filled up first before they leave. And then the South is going to get supplied. So if there's going to be shortages, they're going to be as far away as you're going to be able to measure the shortages by the distance from Florida. Let me put it that way. You're going to be able to measure the shortages by the distance from Florida. And that's what this is all about. If you want moms to not have to be on OnlyFans to raise their kids, Florida is your answer. Governors are your answer. Trump will never be your answer. D.C. will never be your answer. Besides, what do you think Trump could do in 4 years? Because that's all he would have left. That's all he would have left. He would spend the entire time trying to get back at people, trying to get even over 2020. And he's still begging to get back on Twitter. It's unbelievable. How many have seen the article where he's tried to have his lawsuits against Facebook and Twitter moved out of California and into Florida to try to take advantage of our judges that he had nothing to do with appointing? And because he, of course, signed the agreement with them saying that all arbitration would happen in California, he's going to lose his lawsuits, but he's still trying to get on there. Think of all of the different platforms. All of the different platforms you could be on right now that don't include Facebook and Twitter, or even YouTube for that matter. Let's see, Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, Gab, Telegram, Parler, and now his own. He's on none of them other than his own. None of them other than his own. Why? if he were truly interested in communicating with his supporters or conservatives, why would he have just held his breath, stamped his feet, rolled on the ground, and said, I want to be back on Facebook and Twitter, or I'm not going to be on any other platform? I notice I don't see any answers down there, because there are none, because he's a liberal. He's a liberal. One of my, and I guess I should probably go before I get too upset here. All of Trump's background: best friends with the Clintons, buddy of Epstein, worked for NBC, was a Democrat. All of those things willing to forgive. All of those things everybody were willing to forgive. But when DeSantis doesn't do this their way, or DeSantis doesn't do that their way, watch how fast the comment section gets filled up with DeSantis didn't do this, and DeSantis didn't do that, or DeSantis didn't do the other. You see the point? Totally blind to what's going on and what has gone on with that guy for years and years, decades, really. Just because he's able to talk in a way and say things you agree with. But all of the things that Governor DeSantis has done, people just sit and wait. People just sit and wait. Wait until he messes up, or he doesn't do this thing just the right way, or doesn't do a forensic audit, or he's not protecting this and that. I have no use for people like this. I literally have no use for people like this. It's one of the most frustrating parts of trying to do my job here, to tell the truth. Can you imagine if DeSantis had for 10 years been a Democrat? Can you imagine if he had a Nancy Pelosi, or if he had let's say he had, thought that AOC was a great person, had been friends with her for years. Do you think that would get forgiven? Of course, no, you'd never forgive DeSantis for that, would you? But Hillary Clinton, literally after Donald Trump became president, he had an honorary breakfast for the Clintons where he insisted people stand up and give her a standing ovation. See, just like there you go, short bus. I don't like that DeSantis is blah, 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 whatever. He's not pushing the poison. He's not. He still calls it a jab. He calls it an inoculation or a shot. He's not pushing anything. We allow choice, short bus, but you see, that's the point. That's the mindset. Let's think of the first negative thing we can think about DeSantis, and let's make sure we put it in a comment. See, that's the point. You set this gigantic high bar for DeSantis, and everything Trump does is okay, even though he was the one that literally created the jab. He was the one that created the jab. Oh, but he didn't know, and he was exposing. It literally, to those of you out there who are actually awake, to those of you out there who are seeing this, you should really see what it's like to be a YouTuber when you see so many people still trying so hard to love a dictator. Right, but the first thing you didn't say, DJT, did you, short bus? The first person you go after is DeSantis. And he's not pushing anything. Literally every single time he did a press conference where there was a vaccine event, he said, we're allowing choice, we're having choice, we are allowing people to do this, here's where we are doing this. Yeah, somebody mentioned that gunpowder. I don't know anything about Marfugel. This is the point. Everybody, Tom Cotton didn't support Trump, therefore. It's unbelievable. that there's still this many people who cannot see the forest for the trees when it comes to this. That the best answer for all of this happens at the state level. And funny thing, when you read the Constitution, that's what the Constitution tells us to do. Does it not? It's still not going to be overpopulated. Because for every good person that comes here and gets a good job, and the more conservative we come, we have liberals leaving. But yeah, we are increasing. But I live in a neighborhood, and sometimes it's so quiet here. See, you can have a lot of people when people respect each other. You can have a lot of people when people respect each other. That's the reality. Oh, and one other thing. Patriot Nurse recently released an interview on Brighteon with Mike Adams, the health ranger, the actual health ranger. For so long, people have said, Florida Maquis, you're really Mike Adams, the health ranger. I had no idea who the guy was. No idea who he was, but it was multiple people. So if you want to go actually see a live interview with Mike Adams and the Patriot Nurse, it's up on Brighteon. It's up on his website. It's a 40-minute interview. And you can put his voice and his image up to next to my music videos, which I've done a bunch of them recently. For those of you who still think I'm secretly Mike Adams. So, anyway. But I just thought it was an interesting juxtaposition with this interview with the governor, talking about creating these high-paying skill jobs, certificate jobs, that completely circumvent the four-year institutions that allow one person to support a family so that we don't have issues like this. I don't think any woman ever grows up when she's a girl growing up thinking, gosh, I want to be on OnlyFans to support my kids so I can work from home and avoid all the mandates. I don't think any woman dreams of this. But Florida's actually doing something in reality, on the ground right now, to fix this exact problem. High-paying jobs where you're not indoctrinated, where you're not forced to do anything, you're not coerced to do anything. This is going to be where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. Kind of a pun, I guess, if you think about it with the trucking thing. But anyway, I don't mean to get crappy with people, but, I've been dealing with this Trump thing for 5 years now. Oh, by the way, today is the 5-year anniversary of the Florida Maquis. It was the 28th of October, 2016, when I put up my very first video. So I was thinking about talking about that in another vid, but exactly right, Flowers. So anyway, 5 years, 40 million total channel views, 130,000 subscribers. So anyway, God bless. Everyone have a happy and safe Halloween. Have a great weekend. Like, share, subscribe. One more quick note before I forget. Yesterday's video got deleted accidentally, and I think it might have been my fault. I had to re-upload it literally while this live was going on. So it's back up. The title is a little different, I think, but it's basically the same video. So just didn't want anybody to, of course, because I had to re-upload it, it's a different link now. So if you're using your history to go back and find videos, anyway, it's basically the same thumbnail. So thank you for all the anniversary wishes. I appreciate it. But 5 years, how much the world has changed from 2016 to now. So anyway, yep, it's Friday night. I don't have a whole lot planned. So probably tonight on Twitch. Those of you who follow me on Twitch, we've been playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, kind of the whole Caribbean pirate, Florida, Bahamas thing. So anyway, thank you for all the compliments, all the support, all the super chats. I very much appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you guys later on tonight, Lord willing.